Hello and welcome to the first of my Pokemon TCG Pocket videos. In these, I want to show off some Jank decks that I have. What I mean by Jank is strategies that aren't really optimal, they're usually very gimmicky, but I want to show that you can play Jank and still pull a positive win percentage in the ladder. You might only go 50-50 in a tournament at best, but you can still have fun brewing decks. Now, who is this content for? I would say it's for the hyper casuals. It's for people who are maybe medium skill level who just want to see what all is out there. I think there's also some benefit for highly competitive players in that they can at least be prepared if they see a rogue matchup in a tournament or something too. You might spot some synergies that you didn't see before, or maybe you saw a card, you read it, you were like, this card is bad, and then your brain just forgets what it does. Maybe it'll help jog your memory a little there. Since this is my first video, I want to give a little bit of background. I go by No Bribe Foul. That's a Blood Bowl reference. It's another tabletop game I play. Tons of videos on the channel if you are interested in that. But I have a really strong background in card games in general. I've been to nationals for a couple different games. I've been a judge for several card games. I'm not going to claim to be the best. What I am going to claim though is that I know enough and I'm strong enough with my fundamentals that I can at least help people who don't have those fundamentals or maybe don't have years of experience learn some. So ultimately we're here to have fun. If you want to roast my deck lists in the comments, go right ahead. Some of them are going to be outright awful, but if you want to have some fun and try it out and tweak it and be like, oh, it runs more optimally, you know, if you do whatever, like, we're just here to have a good time and see if we can learn something in the process. With all of that out of the way, welcome Pokemon Pocketeers, and today we're going to be looking at what I call Decklist. Before we look at the deck list, I want to say that if you like the content or want to support it, like, share, sub, comment, whatever, all that good stuff. But let's get into it. Okay, so starting off, the Pokemon in the deck. We have one Skarmory. Reason Skarmory is there is to have a one-cost retreat option, because lordy, we do not have another one-cost retreat option. And that can be really significant for things like Sabrina, you know, whatever. Also, if you attach a tool to it, you can pull off 50 damage immediately. So if you go second, sometimes you're gonna do something like pop a Manaphy, and that feels really good. Or you're gonna pressure their EX, bring it down to a threshold of like 100 hit points where you can one-shot it later with something else. Next, we're gonna look at two Dialga EXs. They're there for the ramp, but they're also decent attackers on their own. We'll see a lot of synergy with this and Dawn later. Finally, we're at one copy of Regigigas. I tried so hard to make two work here, but this card is the weakest card in the deck. It's what I call a checkmate piece, though. If they don't have an answer for it, or if they're a bad player, it's just gonna eat them alive, especially if you can get it like set up all the way, which is a bit easier than you might think. I know when I started testing this, it was way easier to set up than I thought it was gonna be. Onto the trainers, pretty basic. We've got two potions. HP manipulation is going to be significant here. We got two X speeds. Retreat assist is extremely important here. Basically, X speed with Dawn as a combo says you get to charge 2 this turn. It doesn't actually say that, but you know, effectively that's what you can pull off with it. 2 Pokeballs, 1 communications. I feel like you have to see your stuff. I was trying to include more duplicates of Skarmory and Regigigas, and then rely on the searchers, but they kept muddling up my searchers. And when you want to see Skarmory, you really want to see it. When you want to see Regigigas after you got your Dialgas, you know, out front, like you want him to be there sooner than later, just as an option. So as of the time of this recording, the space-time set dropped recently, and Pokemon tools are ridiculous. It's crazy the amount of value you can get off of them. So we're running 2 capes, 2 rocky helmets. There is a correct time to equip these to any of your Pokemon. It's situational which one's ideal. We finish off with the obligatory Professor's Research. We're going to run 1 Leaf. I've tried to run multiple, I just kept getting bricky hands. And then we're running 2 Dawns. Dawn is one of the newer cards currently. It lets you move in energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon, which is really important when we have some 4-cost attacks here, and lets us pull off a lot of shenanigans. Let's watch some matches together. I recorded this all in one go, so they're all just strung together. I'm not skipping around, I'm not only showing matches that I won. We're just going to analyze how the deck does. We're going to point out, piloting errors if you see any that I made. Feel free to drop them in the comments. If you see any that maybe an opponent made that I missed, then that's fine too. Right now we're towards the tail end of one of the events where you get 45 wins and you get like an icon or something. I don't really care about those, but I figure I'd try to get them regardless. So being the tail end, what's a nice way to say, the quality of opponent is not going to be like the maximum. At the very beginning of an event, you're going to see the sweatiest people because they're all just trying to get it knocked out and get it done. And they're typically excited to play too. So we're going to see some weird stuff. We're also going to see some meta matchups. So for this first match, I got second, so that's nice. Leading Skarmory does not feel bad. You'll notice I opened Skarmory X Speed. I do have a communications that in case I opened Reggie instead of Dialga, I can swap it out. It's kind of the thought process there. Opponent is leading Snover. It's not exactly a super meta option, so it's kind of what it is. We're probably like on par in terms of whatever. We see the Palkia, that's a little more expected. Throwing Helmet on the Skarmory just makes a lot of sense. We get some good damage in early. The weakness kicks in. That's luck. I almost wish you could play a game mode where you didn't have weakness, so it was more even matchups and a little less swingy, but it also adds something to the game to be able to do that. Also makes it feel really good when you are able to overcome a deck that you're weak to. But we're sitting on Skarmory, we don't have another basic. At this point, it's okay to feel a little nervous. However, we have 2 Professor's Research, 2 Pokeballs, and 3 more basics in the deck. Like, we're sitting okay. We have really good odds of catching back up here. We're also getting some crazy damage in here off of Rocky Helmet. I don't know that... I mean, if all they have is Palkia, I guess swing's the right answer. Especially if I just RNG into not drawing another basic here. But right now we're doing the best we can with what we've got. We have all of our retreat support. And here we're at the point where it's what I call a card check. In this case, it's a Giovanni check. Do they have Giovanni and do they win the game? They could have Giovanni, they could have 2 Misties. There's a lot of different options for kind of what they have. Seeing the 3rd energy manually charged. Oh, now we wait. we're sitting here being nervous to see if we see that Misty or anything else pop up that could swing it. So when you see something like that, like the X Speed, you know the opponent's just kind of doing whatever they're doing for the sake of it. I absolutely respect when someone has a way to take themselves out. That's something for card games, especially with Jank decks I love to build in, especially if it's a best of 3, you just make eye contact with the opponent, you do the play that reduces your life to 0, and then they have to stop and process for a second. They're like, what? And sometimes it can really rattle people for no reason. But we got a win there. I played Skarmory, and we got 3 points off of it, and, eliminated their bench, too. Like, it feels alright, but that was literally just a case of Skarmory is good, neither of us really got what we were trying to get set up, so I'll still take it as a win. I don't feel bad about that one. Second one, we are lucky. We are going second again. Now, we're opening Reggie and Skarmory. Skarmory's the better lead because 1 retreat cost. We also didn't open any Pokemon tools, which is somewhat unfortunate. It's kind of just part of it. So we're seeing, I believe it's Joltik, the little lightning spider thing. They're going to probably try to do a lockdown strategy where I can't retreat. We got Pachirisu, but they didn't equip a tool. They're either holding it, which can be a good call, so the opponent doesn't know if they have it or not. There's also the chance of something like Mars or Red Card, but generally if my opponent plays Red Card, like I think I've maybe lost 2 or 3 games since release to Red Card. Like I'm not a fan of it. Research into research feels good. Deck thinning is deck winning, is the old adage. And it looks like since they're going to have to set up a little bit, I decided to do some setup myself. I think I was also just really excited to actually try the Regi gimmick. So another indicator that we're looking at kind of a janky, roguish matchup here is they're not using the Magneton that self-charges. Anything that gives you extra energy or manipulates your energy in a positive way is really good. But we have X speed, we have our single like 1-cost retreater in the deck, so we have a lot of options here. Really wished I would have opened that helmet, but that's just being greedy at this point. So we're going to drop the X speed, we're going to go ahead and start our ramping ASAP. We're not really threatened, we have some high HP threats on our side, so we have the durability for this to not really matter. I also feel comfortable enough that I can drop the other Dialga. Sometimes I'll hold on to a Pokemon just to keep the opponent guessing. And we're going to start getting Reggie powered up. So Pachirisu, in theory, would be the big threat. We're looking at, if it has a Pokemon tool equipped, for 2 energy it's doing 80 damage. It kind of matters a lot less here. I can soak 2 hits with Cape on Dialga, or I get a huge damage buff off of Regigigas. So against other decks, that's a lot more threatening. In this case, even though I'm slower, having the high HP makes up for it. So we're going to Cape here just to offset. We're going to use the potion here. I was waffling on it because in theory, quote unquote, I don't need it. But it's one of those things that down the road it could really matter, especially if they Cyrus. You always have to play with Cyrus and Sabrina in mind. That's another reason to not play your Pokemon to your bench sometimes, because it'll give them a Sabrina option. Okay, got to concede here. They didn't see the cards they needed to see. Reggie was already going to be set up. Since I haven't said it yet, Regigigas, the more damage it has on it, the more bonus damage it does. So you throw it out there when they don't really have any good, what I would call CC options, basically like things that give you status ailments, and all they have is like bigger attackers that aren't going to one-shot it, which your only real threats for that, especially if you cape it, are like fighting decks that have Lucario's set up or something. You can see those coming because they take time to set up though, and you can play around it. Something else that is cool about this deck is you have 3 different weaknesses between your different Pokemon, so that versatility really helps. We like to see Manaphy, we do not like to see Manaphy without the Skarmory to back it up. I did open 2x speed, so if I draw into Skarmory though, it's just a great setup. So if you have a research in hand, especially if it's early game, oh, we saw the Skarmory, and you have an energy you can charge, always research first, always Pokeball first, always do your things that let you see all of your options before you start committing with your limited resources. So yeah, we're just gonna destroy this Manaphy for no reason. And a lot of people like Leaf because you get more out of it, but in this case, because I needed to drop research, I can double X speed instead. And X speed is actually just the superior choice here. So right now, we are way ahead. It's like silly how ahead we are. And again, Misty exists. If they got the full 4 right now, yeah, it could kind of hurt. But 50-50. A little bit of a rant. I wish that the coin flips were automatic. I think it can maybe make some people feel good, like, oh, I flipped the heads myself, but it's predetermined. There's plenty of evidence for it out there. We don't need to retreat, so we can drop research right away. And we got a backup Dialga, which feels good. So I do not want to give up a point from this Skarmory. Anything that's point denial is usually pretty good, especially if you're giving up a single point. You want to have another single point to give up as your follow-up, so your EX doesn't auto-lose you the game. Hesitating. I don't want to commit my tools until I have to, until I feel like I can get the maximum oomph out of them. And honestly, an extra 20 damage isn't the end of the world right here because it's getting so close. They dropped the Staryu, they wanted to see that earlier. They really did. But I'm not really sad. They've got 3 EXs out there, and I have 1 point also. So we're about to see where I misplay majorly here. See if you can figure out what it is as we're playing. For one, I get really excited. It's one of my weaknesses as a player. If I have a gimmick, in this case Regigigas, that I want to see happen, I'll kind of get tunnel vision, and I'll focus on that. But I don't want to give up this point from Skarmory. You'll see I hesitate here for a second. Alright, we threw the energy on Reggie. We're trying to set it up. It's going to be live in a turn after this. Here's where I screw up, though. I'm so excited about getting extra ramp on Regigigas that I do not do something key. I have a potion. Skarmory has 10 hit points, and when Palkia does its big attack, it's going to do 20 damage to my bench. If I had just dropped a potion, I don't lose the match off of this. Then I have a Regigigas I can throw up front that I can throw a cape on, and I get a really fun revenge kill on an EX. But something as simple as I didn't use a potion ends up costing me the game there. I also probably should have powered up the Dialga instead. Getting it closer sooner, I could have thrown cape on it so that it survived. That's an option if I wanted to hoard the potion too. We're going second again. We got really lucky. We got several streaks of that. That said, I always build my decks to have a turn 1 option, In this case, it's more of a setup thing, but not having to evolve is really nice. Okay, we already know what we're going to see. We're probably going to see Celebi. We might see some kind of, you know, healing things or niche, but yeah. We also aren't sad about having that out front, because even if they have a God Hand, then they're going to take several turns to set up still. And that gives me enough time to set up as well. Hit the Skarmory. We do not have the X speed. We do have a Leaf. Getting a little aggressive and dropping all of my Pokemon here. The fact that I guess it's more Sabrina protection, where it gives me a lot more options. I could have dropped Leaf and thrown Skarmory out front, but not having a tool, it's not necessarily the best play. I kind of would waffle on that one. I would say either one's the right play here. But forcing the ramp advantage is probably a better long game plan. You're fully committing to the ramp. I think at this point I was still excited about Reggie, so we're just gonna go for that. Now, do they have the Superior? Eating the big 50 damage. That does put us in loss range for KO range, I guess, from like 2 flips off of Celebi, which is only 1 energy. Something to keep in mind. It's not likely, so I'm not going to play completely around that, but it is a possibility and is worth keeping in mind. Now we get kind of lucky that they didn't hit their other basics. Even if they hit their other basics, they wouldn't have had energy on them. But we're able to disrupt what they're doing, and because Skarmory can pull out the Smooth, 1 energy, 50 damage, we're going to take that match. It speaks to the consistency of running a deck that only has basics versus one that's relying on evolutions to do stuff. I kind of wish they would make the middle evolutions do more. I think they could do some cool, like, passives or something, you know, abilities, but... We went second again. We are on a streak here. I'm not going to pretend that is not a factor at all, but we opened Reggie. This is the worst opening. It is not a loss by default, but the fact that we have opposing Reggies, yeah, we're going to have some fun with this one regardless. Unless we have another trainer to play, then... See, I hesitated there for a second, but Pokeballs and Research. And then we start playing other cards, because we want to see all of our options. I almost wish Regigigas was an EX and had like 20 to 30 more hit points. It would feel a lot better. Of course, if it was an EX, it would also have like 3 retreat cost, because in my opinion, EXs have way too low retreat costs in this game. So we see that they're probably just using Regigigas as a wall. The Manaphy Palkia setup is something everybody's going to see if they're playing the ladder or playing the event. So all we need is 1 more X speed and we can retreat our Regigigas for free. In all honesty, if we eat some damage early on it, that's actually positive for us. So it's not the worst wall, it's just reliant on seeing what we need to see to be able to make it halfway efficient. We got the Misty. And nothing. Clearly, I am the superior Pokemon Pocketeer here. I don't know. That's just one of those things. It strikes me as a rage quit. It's hard to know. Maybe in their hand they were just completely bricked out. But I still feel like it could have gone either way, especially if they hit a second Misty. So if someone opens something like Regigigas, you can... Going second again. Okay. Yeah, if they open something big and bulky like Regigigas, you can either bully it immediately with something like Skarmory, or I guess back in the day it would have been Farfetch'd, or you could use it to set up for yourself. Like sometimes you see the Dredagon and they'll drop it and you can just ignore it and you can just do your own thing if you feel like your end game is going to be able to beat their end game. We see the Magnemite, we know nothing else. The card sleeves don't necessarily give anything away. Some people just like Mewtwo. It's the same thing with Charizard. You'll see some people just have those sleeves just to have them. Obligatory Darkrai. We know what we're fighting right now. So this is going to be an uphill match. What the opponent is playing is more optimized than what we're playing. This is also, I think, my like 2.5 draft of this deck. So there's still some stuff I would probably tweak for it that would help me balance the matchup out a little bit. My options, if I want to do slow setup, it's not great here. If I want to rush down with Skarmory, it's okay. I kind of need the tools to be able to do that, though. Potion here out of Paranoia. Also, it kind of wastes the ability. I feel like I want to stay away from that 110 range from Magnezone. It's nice because we're not eating the chip damage now. They're really trying to rush towards Magnezone, presumably. The ever-controversial decision of the Volt Charge. Free energy is so good, regardless of context. That potion that I dropped the turn before was also good in case they wanted to retreat into Drud or something. It could have made a big difference, especially because it doesn't have Helmet. So we are swapping to preserve our life and not give away 2 points right now, because we don't want to give away 2 points yet. We also set up, there's a concept from, I used to play Warhammer 40k, and you would set up one unit to get attacked or whatever, you know, get into melee, and then you'd have one behind it as a counter charge. So if the opponent wipes you, you immediately get to hit them first back. I apply that in card games or anything else. In this case, I am just setting up my threats. So now, no matter what they do, I get to smack something down. Cyrus is kind of expected. It's better to just get it out of their hand. Sometimes you're going to eat it, sometimes it's going to cost you. I don't know that I would have played it this early. I think they could have held on to it. Especially because if they choose to swing with Magnezone, which they can't leaf it back now, they're going to have to sacrifice their energy for it. I think overall I would have invested more in Darkrai. So because we were good with our energy, we do have our big attack on Dialga. It does 100 damage. Seeing Reggie a bit too late to be useful. It could potentially be a wall here. It is nice that the opponent only has one Pokemon kind of set up. Since they're only charging Dark Energy, their Magnezone is not going to be able to attack, but we're going to be able to get a point off of it at least. Going to go for the KO. We don't want to dilly-dally and try to do a setup at this point. We want to press our advantage. They don't really have a great swing on us. And I am so glad there is not a helmet on the Regigigas. I guess actually I would one-shot it then, but the 40 damage plus the 20 burn damage from Darkrai would start to add up really quick. So we drop the Skarmory in case of a Sabrina or something. It just gives us an option. I'm gonna free retreat the Dialga. And I believe I didn't see the line of play till after I had already dropped the Skarmory. I was originally just using it as some protection. In this case, I don't mind Skarmory eating the damage. So this is, again, a card check, specifically Leaf. It's a Leaf check. If they have Leaf, I have issues. If they have Dawn and X Speed, I have issues. But they do not. So Pokeball is a dead card right now. We have nothing else for it to hit. Gonna retreat back into Dialga and just finish off the Regigigas. Right now we're not in... Actually, if they go Dark Energy on Darkrai and have their other Magnezone, then we lose the game here. It's one of those things you just have to play around. I mean, there's cards that answer situations, and sometimes you just gotta see if they have it or not. You can look at their cards remaining in deck, you can look at their discard pile if they've already spent one and still have like 10 cards in deck or something. There's a good chance they're not going to hit it. We see the Kangaskhan drop. It seems like they're just throwing stuff out there for the sake of it at this point. I also haven't seen a Kangaskhan for a while. It's kind of nice. Used to be a fun little wall. So we're just setting up whatever we can set up here. We are still short of a Giovanni. We are outside of Magnezone KO range, which anything is gonna take a match point here. Things like Volt Charge you should probably just do right away on your turn. I mean, there's no downside to it unless they're playing like Alakazam or Jinx or the Executor or something. Note that they don't swing. Strategic and gross, and I appreciate it and dislike them for it at the same time. So unless I have a Giovanni... Well, no. I actually would have had lethal off of that. So them not swinging was such a great call here. I'm reviewing my options. I cannot throw either of my back rows out. Retreating is just not the way to go here. If I do that, I lose the game on the next turn. But I get a chance to bully a little bit because... Like, the longer they sit, the worse it gets, too. But at this point, if they can drop Magnezone, they win the game, pretty much. Swapping out Darkrai, just trying to drag it out for a little bit. It's fortunate they haven't hit Magnezone yet. I'm not sure exactly how many cards they have left in deck, but I don't know. That kind of thing happens. Potion is a bit of a get out of jail free card here. It does affect my damage output, but it's not going to be the thing that decides the game by any stretch. Me double checking they didn't discard a Magnezone for something else or whatever. Even though I'm pretty sure that's an old card game habit. I don't think there's things in the game that arbitrarily discard besides Garchomp. And I lose here because of Magnezone. But as you see, this is pretty much a meta build, and we drug it out to the very end. I basically needed to see my other cape, I believe, and so that match was a loss, but considering that it's a meta build and they did see their one Magnezone early, they saw their Darkrai. I feel like for playing a deck that is as janky as this, that came down really close. We were both 1 point away. If they had been a worse player and just swung into Regigigas, then I would have won that game. Easy. We've got another second. I did not realize I went second so many times. Double Dialga Skarmory. Does not feel bad. If you open single Dialga and nothing else, that does feel kind of bad because you don't have anything to ramp. You're kind of wasting energy at that point. Again with the Magnemite, we don't know what we're running into. Like, we don't have a way to know what we're running into. It could be anything. It's just the most splashable thing. I don't think that's a complaint. Not really sure. I'm just not a big fan of Stage 2 Evos to begin with. Togekiss is my favorite. Then I like Alakazam also. Mewtwo, Gardevoir, I mean, I did that. I think I ran that one for the first 5 consecutive Len event. It's fine. Slab makes all that a little too consistent in my opinion, but... We're trying to start the engine early. If I had opened a tool, I probably would have swapped for Skarmory. And the degenerate nonsense begins a little bit earlier than I would like it to. Communication's dead here. I'm probably gonna cut it. I'll probably trade it for a Sabrina or Cyrus. Originally, when I build a deck, I try to run all of my options. So in this case, I ran 2 Communications, 2 Pokeballs, and I ran 2 Leaf, 2 X Speeds. But then you kind of trim down. Whenever you see what's in your hand at the end of the game that you just never touched, you can figure out kind of, sometimes you only need one of on a card, you know, if you have a lot of draw power. And it lets you include other stuff that might be more useful more often. So they're set up, but we have not seen the Magnezone yet. So if they had the Magnezone, it's super greedy that they have not played it yet. That leads me to believe they just haven't seen it yet. Having a little bit of analysis paralysis here. Which I always say, like, the majority of the time, you're going to end up doing your first instinct anyway, once you've got some practice with whatever it is. I'm still not 100% confident with the deck. I'm probably like 7 games in on it at this point. But as you can see, Dawn is gross. It lets you set up your 4 energy attacks a lot more efficiently than you should be able to with a deck that like really isn't meta and really isn't great. So now they're out of stuff, pretty much. Anything I throw out, I have Leaf, I have X Speed. I don't have a bad play here. It's weird, we're seeing the other Magneton again, and I don't know, I like to go one-on-one, like with Blaine and stuff, but I don't know here. I feel like that free energy is way too good. But if you can win the game, win the game. This is the final match. I finally went first today. Whenever you build a deck, you should always have a going first option and a going second option. Lucked out a little with hitting some searchers and stuff. Got some card draw. We have some reasonable turn 1 here. Even before I drop the Regi, I'm gonna drop the research. Looks like the opponent is setting up as well. They are gonna get an energy advantage on me. And if they're running full Gardevoir setup, then they can super get advantage on me. Obviously, it just depends what they hit. It's interesting because they leave the 1 basic out. We can either invest Skarmory or Dialga here. And looks like I was going Dialga. Because we've only seen the 1 basic deployed, I figure a little bit of extra pressure on it is going to help out. It's super gross for the first 3 cards in the discard pile. I'm so used to physical card games where if you had a card that said search out a basic Pokemon, you would have to prove it was a basic Pokemon that you searched out, so you would reveal it. Which this game obviously doesn't need that because it's digital, so it's something that still comes off as weird to me. So in this case, can you guess what's about to happen? We've got basically, we had a really juicy chance to set up Reggie. I have prepared a counter charger. I cannot be one-hit KO'd. But if I can bait that 150 damage, that's going to be huge for setup for later. I did have the option to KO the Mewtwo EX. In retrospect, probably should have. But there we go. We have a giant cannon. So they don't have any points currently. We're sitting okay. I would like to be more set up in the back row. I heavily invested, but they hit the Gardevoir. That was one of the things I was kind of gambling on, because they hadn't hit it yet. They're a ways into their deck, and either they were waiting to bait me, or, which is a big brain play and kind of risky, or they might have even just top decked into it. Having a tooled up Skarmory is not the worst thing here. So I believe at this point I have 3 cards left in deck, and I have to see Cape. I have to see Cape to win here. Skarmory gets one-shotted, because why would you not when you have the option? And at this point, here we are just praying for Cape. There's me double checking, like Cape exists, right? 2 cards. It's what it is. We had a way out, technically. But essentially, in our 2 more meta matchups that we had, we were like, I think 20 damage away on the other one, and just really a couple HP on our side on this one. So for a deck that should be like C or D tier, I still feel like it performs well enough for what it is. We had a bit of luck with going second a lot. I don't think going first is that weak as long as you see Pokeballs or Professor's Research or even Communications and have an extra one to trade in. I feel like you still got plays. So what did we learn today? We learned that Regigigas is balls. The big problem, in addition to the 4 retreat, which you have to build your entire deck around, is the opponent gets to decide if they power you up or not. You can attack into Rocky Helmet. That is not going to give you a significant enough damage boost. By the time that you eat something like a Psy Drive and take 150 damage, the opponent can also just follow up and take it out unless they're already really slow. For those not in the know, on the main series games, Regigigas has a horrible ability called Slow Start, where it does nothing for 5 turns. I feel like they translated that card in terms of flavor extremely well into the game. It is not hard to get the energy set up. It is way easier than I thought. Between Dawn and your ramping off of Dialga, it's pretty cool. I think Dialga Bastiodon is probably just a better deck. Overall, it's another one you don't really see a lot, but at least the gimmick for that one, you don't have to have the energy ready. I would take out Pokemon Communications here. I don't think it did anything. It'd be better as a Sabrina or Cyrus. Honestly, double Skarmory would probably be better. Toss in a Giovanni, and you'll be able to pull off some stuff. Even like 80 HP middle stage ones that swing into Rocky Helmet, and then you know, can Giovanni the next turn. There's a lot of cool stuff you could do there. Either way, hopefully that was fun to watch. If you have any feedback, any comments, again, feel free to roast my deck construction or any of the plays that I made. Like in that last one of the Mewtwo, I probably should have just taken out that Mewtwo when I had the opportunity for it. Not sure what I was hesitant about. Again, I was probably just getting tunnel vision, really excited to get to use my Regi. Overall, we're gonna rank this one a C tier. I was hoping to get it up to a B tier, but Dialga plus Regigigas is not gonna do anything for you. It doesn't even qualify as no EX. So overall, deck is pretty bad even when optimized, but you can set it up a whole lot easier than a lot of people will suspect. And even if you open your Regigigas, it's not as bad as like opening a Snorlax, because if you can start accruing some chip damage, then you can expound on that later. If you get to Leaf double X speed, you can also retreat it for free. Even if you have, you know, the 4 energy on it and you Leaf X speed or do a single X speed, you can still don the energy off of it afterwards too, which can set up one of the Dialgas, which are probably just the better card overall in terms of utility, and the only thing they lack is the maximum damage output. But if you enjoyed the video, I'm planning on doing more. Like I said before, like, share, sub, do whatever, and I will see y'all next time.